Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Transformation Talk. I am here today with Hannah Marcotti, who is a writer, and she is a creator of amazing online courses for women to help them step more fully into their beautiful, joyful lives. I am so excited to talk with you, Hannah. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you. I love it.
So there are so many things that I want to ask you about, but I think I'm actually going to start with what happened after Eli was born. Because it feels like, from knowing your story a little bit, like that was a pretty dramatic turning point in your life.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about what happened, touch on his birth, and then sort of what happened after that?
Yeah. So Eli just turned 8, which is like mind-blowing to me that like somehow he's 8 and I'm like here and, it's crazy. But so Eli was born fast and furiously. He had a very quick birth and he was born in the car. Not even our car, somebody's car we were borrowing, which makes it all the more worse because you have to like give back this car that you've had a baby in. It's really embarrassing. But so he was born in a car, true to form. Like my mantra during my pregnancy with him was slippery as a seal, slippery as a seal, slippery as a seal, and it worked clearly. And what in the first few hours after he was born felt like an elated adventure, like, oh my God, we're so awesome, look at us, look what we just did. The next few weeks started to turn into pretty severe postpartum or post-traumatic stress syndrome. And I didn't really know, I didn't really understand it. And so this was sort of the catalyst for everything that happened in my life now. It's literally why I am where I am. He was born. I made a decision a few years, I can't remember how old he was, but I decided to go on Zoloft. And I went on Zoloft and started to feel a whole lot better. And then I was surprised with my next pregnancy with Lucas, who's now almost 5, and had to wean off the Zoloft and make a decision that in my life I needed to discover who I was, that living inside of the role of just mother was no longer my story completely, that I had more of a story to tell. So that is like a really fast, I can expand on any part of it, but that's a very fast explanation of kind of how I got from that moment to where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Well, because your post-traumatic stress and you had some postpartum as well, that was pretty intense, wasn't it?
It was, I would be standing in the shower and I would relive I would hear myself screaming. I would hear myself screaming, that the baby was coming. And so I'm sitting there and my husband's still driving the car. So he's driving the car and the baby's literally coming, like I feel his head. And in that moment, that kind of fear, and I don't even know what the fear really was because I can't even state what the fear was other than this is nothing I've ever experienced and nobody has ever. The only thing is my mom actually said once, if you're ever in a car and you're having a baby, what you need to do is say to the person driving, stop the car. And I remembered that in this moment. I'm like, why did she ever say that to me? How bizarre. And because she was a midwife for a long time. And so I remember screaming at one point, stop the car. So all the things that I had been screaming in the car were things that would be echoed back to me in my life. I did not know how to hold it together as a parent, as a friend, as a wife, as anything. I just did not know. I did not know what was happening to me at all. It was like blowing my mind. And then when I figured it out, it was pretty clear, and I wanted to maybe make it less important. No, I just had a baby in the car. He was totally fine. I was totally fine. Everybody was fine. And yet it doesn't really matter what your experience is, what happened. It happened to you. It is inside of you. It is locked in your blood, in your heart, in your mind. It is just, it's lodged in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So, and I think you say on your website too that one of the ways it manifested was fear for his life.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would lay there. This was before I went on the Zoloft. I would lay there at night, and I would imagine, like, we had these little bunk beds, but they were tiny. So his was just a mattress on the floor. It's like an IKEA bunk. So I could lay down and nurse him if I needed to, nurse him to sleep or whatever. And he was our best sleeper, which was a gift. The only of my children who slept. And I would lay in bed because he wasn't right next to me. He was in this little bunk. And I would imagine the bunk beds falling. And then, so that would happen, and then he'd be crushed. And then I would do it again. Let's do this again. Let's try to save him. So the other fear that would come was, we have this beautiful mall, and they have these escalators. But literally, you look over the escalator, and you're like looking down 3 floors. And I would, I think we must have gone to the mall once with him in the sling, and I must have just been terrified that if I got pushed or something, he would go over. And so that was the other repetitive fear that would happen. So I would see myself on the escalator and him falling. And for years and years after, if I stepped foot on those escalators, I would start crying. And I said, I got to take the elevator. Got to take the elevator. And it's only been recently that I've been able to go back on the escalators at the mall.
Wow. Wow. So everything changed. The Zoloft helped, and then you had Lucas. And right before Lucas was born, you enrolled in school.
Right. Yeah. So I was only on Zoloft for about 2 months.
Okay.
Like a really high dose. And what it did is what I think it did is it showed me that life could feel different. Mm. Right? So it was the first time that I got this window into, because I've always had a high anxiety and OCD and all this stuff. And I think my OCD and anxiety is like kind of collective, like it kind of feels like it's one thing. Mm-hmm. So it showed me that there was another way that you could feel inside of your body. So I had never had the post-traumatic stress, but it just simply amplified kind of my repetitive anxiety. So the OCD repetitive, boom, boom, boom. So then I had to go off of it. I get pregnant with Lucas, and it was like entering into life knowing that you could feel different, but then having to make really big choices of designing your life now. So going to school was a huge decision. I had never left a child before. We would travel to New York and stay with family because my school would be 1 weekend a month or 2 weekends a month in New York City. And so Lucas was a baby, and he was 4 months old when I started. And so I'd be gone all day, and then I'd come back with like huge boobs and nurse him. And that's pretty much how I got through school, was like traveling him. And so it wasn't that I was, kind of separating from this role, but it was that I knew that I had to add. Mm-hmm. I knew that I had to add on. Mm-hmm. To layer in. And it was just part of this, now that I know that life can feel different, what are the choices I have to make now?
Right. And why did you choose the Institute for Integrative Nutrition? Why did you choose health coaching?
My best friend had gone the year before, and she was really more of the health coach, like food. But she went to school, and she said, the first day of class, I sat here and I said, I know you will be here. Mm. You'll be here. This is where you're meant to be. And so I said, okay. Yeah, I believed her.
Wow. And you had a history of not a great relationship with food.
Right. So I had come off of every eating disorder you could have. I still, even as a health coach, still struggled, battled with all of it. Took on things like cleansing to, I'm cleansing instead of, being on a diet and all of that. But it was the first step towards truly healing. For me, it was all about, like, I don't want to live in struggle anymore. Mm-hmm. I do not want to be inside of struggle. And it was just yet another layer of, sort of these puzzle pieces that I feel like I'm weaving together to no longer be there, to no longer be inside of that place,
Well, and you've been really open on in your writing about your issues with your bladder and how much pain that has caused. And also recently, there's been a big shift and release.
Yeah.
And I would love it if you talked a little bit about what that physical release has done in your life, like what the impact of that has been.
Yeah, that was a big... I've had pain associated with... It's a little bit different than a bladder infection, but it's pain just like a bladder infection. And I've had this since I was about 24. And not coincidentally, 24 is the year that I decided to get married. And so kind of going back and unearthing all of this, looking at decisions made and where I was in my life and all the healing and the things that needed to happen probably before I was making these huge adult decisions. And so a lot of emotional stuff played into this, but also a very real physical, thing happening inside of my body. Pain during intercourse, excruciating pain during intercourse. And what I call bladder flare-ups. I don't really know any other way to describe them. I just call them bladder flare-ups. And antibiotics won't heal them. So you have to just go through, use food as medicine and a different variety of things. And so last year I just decided to fully step into surrender. It was at a point when I couldn't drink coffee or have a glass of wine or eat a bite of chocolate. I pretty much couldn't eat anything or I would get a bladder flare-up. Literally nothing. I think I was on pears and turkey or something crazy. I couldn't eat anything. And I just felt like it's time to surrender. It's time to release this and find a new way. There has to be a new way. And so kind of going through tests and everything, I end up at a physical therapist who specializes in all of this, in bladders, in in all the pain. I could not believe how many women she sees because they have pain during intercourse. I could not believe it. I thought, I'm the only one. Clearly I'm the only one. No, I'm not the only one. And so we start to do this healing work, and all of a sudden I'm doing the emotional work while she's doing the physical work, and they start to kind of come together, and all of a sudden there's this healing that starts to happen. And I couldn't walk around the block when I went into physical therapy, so it went from not being able to walk around the block to now I do forest yoga twice a week. Pretty significant change. And so many things happened. Again, huge life-changing moments, but one is that I made this decision. So then the second thing was that my physical therapist said, whether or not any emotional, issues played into this, this is now a physical issue, and it has been inside of your body for years. You can no longer, place any, I remember the word she used, but you can't any longer put this on your emotions. You have to now deal with this as a physical reality in your body. And that lifted. I'm always talking about what can we lift off of each other. She lifted such a huge weight off of me because I thought I created it. I blamed myself for it. All my choices, all my decisions, whatever. I thought that I had created this. And then she just lifted it. Beautiful, a beautiful moment. And there's something about when you are stepping back into yourself. I had hid in a cave for a year because I couldn't do anything. I could barely eat. I couldn't do anything with anybody. So I was in a cave, and all my relationships kind of just came crashing down, and I really didn't know how to function. So it was like a rebirth for me. It was this huge sign from the universe, from myself, from whatever, that now I could have like this gigantic, I don't know if redo is the right word, but like I could from this moment forth decide, make decisions, be in control, feel my power. You know, when you go from like barely being able to walk and managing pain, like it is so not talked about enough how much space in your brain and your heart pain management occupies. And those who are dealing with pain management on a daily basis and yet still functioning, still taking care of their kids, still doing, you know, going to work, doing all the things that has to be done, it is enormous. Enormous. And when that is lifted, you are truly rebirthed. I mean, that's very dramatic, but that's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, I love that you talk about it so much, because it is something that's not talked about. It is sort of this taboo, especially talking about quote unquote female issues or bladder, or, you know, and it's just this beautiful watching your journey with it, and then watching all the shifts that have come since your physical release. It's just amazing, this transformation that's happening for you.
It is amazing. You know, a few days ago, I got my very first flare up, and I haven't had one in months. And it was nowhere near what they used to be like. But I got scared. I got really scared, and I thought, oh my God, what's happening? But now I have the tools. I know, like, so you're not resting enough. You're probably not eating quite as well as you should be. You haven't been to your physical therapist in how long, you know? And now I have these resources. Now I can go in and say, okay, what's my plan of action? Because you're never, you know, I will never be completely free of this. This is part of my body. This is just how I manifest whatever it is, you know? But not letting it be, you know, the end of the world. It's just, okay, so now we're going to revisit. We're going to go back. We're going to fine tune. We're going to, you know, go back into the steps. It's huge, you know, but it's scary, you know, it's scary.
Yes. Anytime that stuff comes back, it's so scary. But I love that you use the word, you have these tools, because that's really what you do now. You moved from, you moved from health coaching into what you do now. And I know there have been a few permutations, but you really give women tools to find more joy in their lives.
Yeah. And it's so simple. Like I always have to just stop and say, should I really be like teaching this? Because it's so simple. And then I look at my life and I think, okay, but if it was so simple, you would be doing all these things. Like I'm always going back to these simple things and reminding myself that, you know, it's this rhythm, this ritual in our lives that keeps time, that keeps us, that grounds us, that brings us back to where you're going. You know, as simple as like when your mind is so cluttered and you cannot, you can't figure out what your next step should be, or you feel like your to-do list is so long. I just stop and I look at my house, and usually my house is really cluttered when my brain is really cluttered, and I just know that I have to take a couple days and declutter it, or scrub the toilet. I mean, sometimes it is as simple as those things that just bring you back, you know, they bring you back. And so I do, I often like, will talk, you know, in my head, I'll have that like monkey brain and I'll be like, what are you doing? What is this? You know, this needs to be more concrete. It needs to be more left brain, you know, and it's not, it just isn't, you know.
It's amazing how those simple things often escape us, because we just get into this like, why am I not feeling good? And why am I feeling this way? And I love that you really pull it out and you lay out all these tools for people, and they can take what works for them, and it's really life-changing.
It's been amazing to watch women go through these transformations, and it can be as simple as just signing up for a program called the Joy Up. So you sign up for something with joy in it, all of a sudden you've committed, like you've monetarily committed to joy. Which, when do you get to do that? You know, like you buy a shirt or you buy some food or whatever, but how often do we get to commit ourselves to joy in that way? And what will happen is before I ever send out a single letter, I get email after email after email of people saying, because I signed up for this program, I'm making this decision. And it can be as huge as, someone deciding to leave an abusive husband, or as small as, which isn't really small, but like I just bought myself, some nail polish, and I wanted this shade of nail polish, and I felt like I don't deserve this nail polish, and I just bought it for myself because I just thought I deserve this,
yeah,
and it's just so it ranges, but I haven't even done anything. Like, I've just said, hey, we're going to do this thing. And so there is something really beautiful about simply making this, commitment to whatever it is, joy or whatever, space in your life or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I took your vision book course, and it was so much fun. I mean, it was just fun in the first place, and then to really watch what came from being intentional around so many different things.
Yeah.
And putting that on paper, it's pretty magical.
It is. It's fascinating. That one in particular, because that sort of started to change the course of the work I do when I saw how impactful, doing this vision work was with people. And again, it's really simple. But how often do we allow ourselves to sit down with a magazine and glue and play like that? Yeah. We just don't do that naturally. It's just not something we instinctively do, and again, it all goes back to these choices of I just want to feel good in my life, I want to feel turned on by life, I want to feel free, I want to feel, whatever. Those are my words, and everybody can put their own words in, but that's how I want to be guided,
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. All right, I am going to ask you my last 3 questions. The first one is, if you could wave a magic wand and change anything about the world, what would it be?
Oh, wow. That's a good one. Okay, so I don't know how this is going to sound, but I have always been so obsessed with garbage. Since I was a kid, I have felt like garbage gives me anxiety. Like, all I can see is that, in years we're going to be living on garbage. I would just wave my wand in prayer that we would just get it. We would just get how much, how destructive we're being. How destructive we're being. I would wave my wand, and then I would personally have less anxiety. I wouldn't walk down the streets in New York City past all those garbage piles and feel my heart start to palpitate. So it's very selfish, but I would feel less anxiety if there were less garbage. I swear to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Total aside on that, have you seen the trailer for the documentary on the Midway Atoll with all the birds eating garbage?
No.
Oh, okay.
Okay, send that link.
Yeah, it's devastating. Maybe you shouldn't watch it. I don't know.
I should.
Maybe I won't send you the link.
Yeah.
What brings you the most joy?
Joy. So for me, it's daily choices. It's the moment where I am in that self-deprecating talk, and I make a choice that I don't have to be there, that I don't have to stay there. That to me is joy, and I do this every single day. So my happy is so many different things, but my joy is that. My joy is that I have actually learned that I can choose this, that I can, when I'm overwhelmed, on my table right now, there's Post-its everywhere because my brain can't hold all the information. And that was simply a choice to not have this big list that was bringing me so much anxiety, and down into little pieces. that brings me joy, like such deep joy, knowing that I have that power of choice every time I flip something around. That's when I feel joy.
I love that. What is one fun or interesting thing about you that makes you uniquely you?
Oh goodness. I have a real crazy habit of rearranging furniture. And usually I rearrange the furniture. This is probably my OCD, but I rearrange furniture obsessively. I'm not actually as bad as I used to be because now I have the loft, so I have a lot more space, so I don't do it quite as crazily as I used to. But if I'm feeling like stuck energy, or I need to like evolve, make a new decision or something, or maybe the kids have been like just utterly impossible and I want to move the energy around, I'll move the furniture around. Nobody's home. I'll do a complete rearrangement. Sometimes I'll move a room into something else. Like I'll just completely transform things. So I do that a lot, and I love it. And my kids have grown up with this, so they're kind of used to it. And you know, their friends will be like, "Hey, what's going on, Eli?" And Eli will be like, "Mom moved the furniture again." You know? So it's just my thing. I do it, and I love it. I've done it since I was a kid. I've moved my stuff around, and it just, for me, it's like how other people must take smudging, like opening energy. To me, moving furniture is like, and so I love it. I think it's like crazy fun and like energetically exciting. But it probably is slightly unique because I notice I don't walk into other people's homes and see their stuff in different places all the time. So.
I love it. I need to channel some of that actually right now. I need some furniture moving in my house. You want to come to California?
When no, I would come. I'd come movie furniture.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Hannah. If people want to find you, it's hannahmarcotti.com. I totally recommend that they sign up for your newsletter. It's amazing. There's always such beautiful, beautiful, just heartfelt, heart-opening words from you. So thank you for spending some time with us despite the Skype issues.
Thank you. And as I said to you before we were recording, it's kind of goes back to the joy thing. Like I was really funky today, and I knew that spending time in your energy was going to lift me back up. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. My pleasure. All right. Have a beautiful day.